The invention of the refrigerator has a long and interesting history that dates back to the early 19th century. Early attempts to preserve food involved the use of icehouses, which were essentially underground chambers where ice was stored to keep food cool. However, these icehouses were not very efficient, and food was still often spoiled. We have sought to keep food cool to preserve it since the beginning of time. We initially used ice that was taken from rivers and lakes, but then appeared refrigerators. They are home appliances with a thermally insulated compartment and a heat pump that transfers heat from the refrigerator's interior to the exterior, cooling the interior. The basis for refrigerators appeared in 1755 when Scottish professor William Cullen designed a small refrigerating machine. This machine had a pump and a container of diethyl ether. The pump made a vacuum in the container which lowered the boiling point of the ether. Boiling ether absorbed the heat from the surrounding air. The next step was in 1805 when American inventor Oliver Evans invented a closed vapor compression refrigeration cycle, again based on ether, which had its boiling point lowered by vacuum. These ideas and prototypes were not practical until Jacob Perkins built the first working vapor compression refrigeration system in the world in 1834. His system had a closed cycle and could operate without waste. Although practical, it did not succeed commercially. American physician John Gorey built a working prototype in 1842 and planned to use it for cooling the air in tropical homes. But this one was also a commercial failure. James Harrison, a British journalist who had immigrated to Australia, built a mechanical ice-making machine in 1851 and made the first commercial ice-making machine in 1854. He patented it in 1856. This machine used ether, alcohol, or ammonia, while later models used ammonia dissolved in water, sulfur dioxide, and methyl chloride. These refrigerators were also used in breweries and meat packing houses. A German engineer named Carl von Linde developed a refrigeration system that used a refrigerator substance that can be compressed and expanded to transfer heat to cool air, which he patented in 1876. This was a major breakthrough in the field of refrigeration, and von Linde went on to form a company that became one of the largest producers of refrigeration equipment in the world. Fred W. Wolf of Fort Wayne, Indiana, in 1913 invented refrigerators for home and domestic use, which were generally a unit that was mounted on top of an ice box, and many others worked to improve the idea. Nathaniel B. Wells of Detroit, Michigan, introduced an idea for a refrigeration unit that worked on electric power in 1914. Alfred Mellows made his variant of a refrigerator with a compressor that was placed at the bottom of the cabinet in 1916. His idea was bought in 1918 by Frigidaire Company, which started mass-producing refrigerators. In the same year, Kelvinator Company started producing their refrigerators, which were based on the Nathaniel B. Wells refrigerators, and were the first to have an automatic control of temperature. By 1923, they held 80% of the market for electric refrigerators. In 1922, Bautzer von Platen and Karl Munters from Sweden invented the so-called absorption refrigerator, which uses a heat source to provide the energy needed to drive the cooling system. These early refrigerators often had mechanical parts, motor and compressor, in the basement or an adjacent room, while the cold box was located in the kitchen. The first self-contained unit that didn't have this kind of concept, but had all its parts in one enclosure, was introduced in 1923 by Frigidaire. The first more popular refrigerator that saw wider use was General Electric Monitor Top refrigerator from 1927. Its name comes from the resemblance to the gun turret on the ironclad warship USS Monitor of the 1860s. They used sulfur dioxide or methyl formate as the refrigerating medium, but these can be very dangerous and toxic. The fleet, so a safer solution was sought. In the late 1920s, A research team was formed by Charles Franklin Kettering and General Motors to find a replacement. They found that Freon is much safer, although not entirely risk-free. More efficient refrigerators were developed in the 1970s and 1980s. Today it is known that Freon can cause ozone depletion in the atmosphere. The first commercial refrigerators for home use became available in the early 20th century, and by the 1920s, refrigeration had become an important part of modern life. Today, refrigeration is an essential technology for preserving food and other perishable items and is used in countless applications around the world. Without these inventors building off one another's ideas to improve and make refrigerators and food storage systems better and more efficient, our lives today would be very different. Thanks to them, we can store our foods for weeks, and frozen food can last years. They have improved our lives greatly, and we can all be thankful for that. What are your thoughts on the process and different attempts to create the perfect refrigerator? Comment them down below. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you want to watch more videos on various different inventions and the process it took to make them what they are today, subscribe and turn on notifications.